In the early hours of September 21, 2024, Matthew Johnson was shot in the head while he slept. The person who pulled the trigger was the last person he ever expected. His wife, Jennifer Gledhill, mother of their 3 children. But Matthew wasn't killed in a moment of rage. This was planned, methodical, calculated. She confessed to her lover, and he recorded every word. This is the story of a Green Beret who survived combat, only to be murdered in his own bed. A wife who chose killing over divorce. And a confession that unraveled everything. Matthew Johnson's body has never been found. But the truth came out the moment Jennifer Gledhill opened her mouth. Hi everyone, welcome to EIN Stories. What you're about to hear is one of the most chilling cases of premeditated murder I've ever covered. A case where every precaution was taken, every detail planned, except one: the human need to confess. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button, like, and drop your comments. Let's begin. Cottonwood Heights, Utah. An upscale suburb nestled against the Wasatch Mountains, just outside Salt Lake City. Tree-lined streets. $1 million homes. The kind of neighborhood where everyone knows their neighbors, and tragedy feels like something that happened somewhere else. In one of these homes lived what appeared to be the perfect American family. Matthew Johnson and Jennifer Gledhill. 3 children, 11, 7, and 5 years old. To the outside world, they had it all. Matthew Johnson was 51 years old. A Green Beret with the Utah National Guard's 19th Special Forces Group Airborne. For over 12 years, he'd served his country with distinction. His fellow soldiers described him as brilliant, reliable, and dependable, someone you could always count on for answers. Being a Green Beret isn't just a job. It's an identity. These are the Army's elite, trained in unconventional warfare, foreign languages, survival. Matthew had survived multiple combat deployments. He knew how to assess threats, how to protect himself, how to stay alive in the most dangerous places on Earth. John Hash, a fellow Green Beret who served alongside Matthew for 12 years, said this about his friend. He was a guy who really loved his kids and wanted to be around his kids, and all he wanted was peace. John Hash, 19th Special Forces Group. Jennifer Gledhill was 42. To Matthew's military friends and their neighbors, she seemed like a devoted mother and supportive military wife. One friend described her as nice, kind of a homebody. The family kept to themselves, lived quietly. The Johnsons and Gledhills appeared to be living the American dream. A beautiful home. A father who served his country. A mother raising 3 young children. Everything looked perfect. But in this house, behind these walls, a very different story was unfolding. By July 2024, the marriage was already crumbling. Court documents would later reveal that Matthew and Jennifer had been discussing divorce. Jennifer had actually moved out of the family home back in March. The perfect facade was already shattered. They were just trying to figure out who would keep what. The main issue? Money. Jennifer claimed she was entitled to equity in the home because it had appreciated in value during their marriage. But there was a problem. The home was Matthew's before they married. Jennifer wanted what wasn't legally hers. On August 21st, Jennifer made a strategic move. She filed for a temporary protective order against Matthew, claiming she needed protection from her husband. In her petition, Jennifer listed the Cottonwood Heights house as her own address, the same house she'd moved out of 5 months earlier. This wasn't just about protection. This was about access. The court initially granted a temporary order, which meant Matthew couldn't be in his own home. For the next few weeks, Jennifer's protective order gave her exactly what she wanted: access to the house while keeping Matthew out. But on September 10th, the court decided to take a closer look. They extended the protective order for 1 more week while Commissioner Russell Minez examined the evidence Jennifer had submitted. Jennifer had provided videos and text messages as proof of Matthew's alleged abuse. What the commissioner found would change everything. September 16, 2024. Just 5 days before Matthew Johnson would be murdered, Commissioner Russell Minez issued his ruling. The protective order was dismissed. No abuse had occurred. In fact, Commissioner Minus found that the videos Jennifer submitted actually showed her as unafraid and, quote, equally confrontational toward him. But it was the text messages that told the real story. The commissioner wrote that Jennifer's text messages to Matthew were, quote, repeatedly berating, belittling, and demeaning, if not outright attempting to goad him into a violent response. Matthew's responses? Please just leave me alone. Please think about what you're doing. Commissioner Minus wrote something that now feels hauntingly prophetic. The conduct of the parties over the past several months is representative of a highly dysfunctional marriage bringing out the worst in the parties, clearly suggestive that an action for divorce should have been filed long before reaching the current state of affairs. Commissioner Russell Minus, September 16, 2024. The commissioner was right. A divorce should have been filed long before. But what he didn't know, what no one knew, was that Jennifer had already decided divorce wouldn't be necessary. Matthew's attorney, Brady Gibbs, would later explain Jennifer's true motive for the protective order. Quote, there was no ability for her to get in the home if not for the improper request for a protective order. Mr. Johnson was an Army Ranger. He was very capable of defending himself. This was the only way Ms. Gledhill could get the access she needed to kill him. Brady Gibbs, Matthew Johnson's attorney. By this point, Matthew knew something was very wrong. According to his friends, Jennifer's behavior had become so erratic, so disturbing, that Matthew spent the final weeks of his life sleeping at a National Guard facility. He was literally afraid to sleep in his own home. Kevin Thompson, Matthew's longtime friend and fellow guardsman, would later recall Matthew's state of mind. Matthew had really come to the conclusion that a divorce needs to happen and it is time to move on. Kevin Thompson, retired Utah National Guardsman. September 17. The day after the protective order was dismissed, Matthew had a case management conference scheduled for the divorce. He was taking the legal route. He was doing everything by the book. He thought the law would protect him. Matthew was a trained Special Forces operator. He'd survived combat. He knew how to identify threats and neutralize them. But there was one threat he didn't see coming. Because while Matthew was planning his divorce, Jennifer was planning something else entirely. What Matthew didn't know was that Jennifer had been living a double life. She was having an affair with another man. This wasn't a casual relationship. It was intense, consuming, secretive. And this man would ultimately become the key to unraveling everything. On September 19th, just 2 days before the murder, Jennifer showed her lover something. A loaded Glock 19X that she kept in the home. At the time, he probably thought nothing of it. After all, military families often owned firearms. That same week, Jennifer made arrangements for their 3 children to stay with her parents. She needed them out of the house. She needed witnesses gone. The stage wasn't just set. It was meticulously arranged. Every piece in place. In 48 hours, Matthew Johnson would be dead. September 20th, 2024. It started like any other day in Cottonwood Heights. But by evening, everything would change. That night, Matthew Johnson discovered the truth. Jennifer was having an affair. According to Jennifer's own later confession, Matthew confronted her. Witnesses would report hearing a heated argument between the couple. Years of dysfunction, months of legal battles, weeks of fear, all of it exploding into the open. Jennifer would later tell her lover that Matthew was, quote, yelling at her because he knew she had been sleeping with someone else. The argument was intense. Neighbors heard raised voices. But eventually, the house went quiet. Matthew went to bed that night believing the worst was over. The argument was done. Tomorrow, he would continue with the divorce proceedings. He'd done everything right, filed the paperwork, hired an attorney, removed himself from dangerous situations. He thought he was safe. He had no idea he would never wake up. In the early hours of September 21st, as Matthew lay sleeping in the master bedroom, completely vulnerable and unaware of the danger he was in, Jennifer Gledhill made a decision that would destroy multiple families forever. She took Matthew's own 9mm Glock handgun. And she shot her husband in the head while he slept. Matthew Johnson, 51 years old, a father of 3, A Green Beret who had survived multiple combat deployments. Killed in his own bed. With his own weapon. By the mother of his children. What happened next reveals just how calculated this murder was. According to Jennifer's own confession, she placed Matthew's body into a rooftop storage container, the kind you strap to the top of a car. She slid it down the stairs of their home, step by step, and loaded it into the back of their minivan. She smashed his phone. She drove his truck to a nearby neighborhood and abandoned it, just blocks from their home. Then, with her husband's body in the back of the minivan, Jennifer drove north. Cell phone data would later track her journey toward Davis County. Somewhere in that vast landscape, she buried Matthew in a shallow grave. To this day, that location remains unknown. Surveillance video captured Jennifer at a gas station in Centerville that morning, thoroughly cleaning her vehicle. Every detail, every surface, removing any trace of what she'd done. By the time she returned home, the sun was up. The neighbors were starting their day. And Jennifer Gledhill had just gotten away with murder. Or so she thought. What came next was an extensive cleanup operation that would have impressed a crime scene investigator, if it had actually worked. Jennifer bleached the walls of the master bedroom. Police would later report that the entire house reeked of chlorine. There were reddish-brown spots on the walls, the bed frame, the blinds, spots she'd tried desperately to remove. She used carpet cleaning supplies throughout the bedroom, focusing on the area beneath the bed. The basement stairs showed bleach discoloration from where the storage container had been dragged down. On September 24th, just 3 days after killing her husband, Jennifer ordered a new mattress online. The blood-soaked one where Matthew had been shot needed to be replaced. The new mattress was delivered 2 days later. The old one, the rug from the master bedroom, foam cushions, pillows, all of it was disposed of. Later, investigators would find these items discarded at a specific location, each one photographed and catalogued as evidence. Prosecutors would present a photo from 2023 showing Matthew standing in that very bedroom, next to that very rug. The same rug that was found discarded after his murder. Quote, "That is the same rug, and that is Matthew Johnson next to the same rug." But Jennifer hadn't done this alone. Phone records show that on September 22nd, while driving north to bury Matthew's body, Jennifer made calls to one person. Her father, Thomas Gledhill. Before leaving with the body, she called him. And after burying her husband, she called him again. He was the only person she contacted during those critical hours. By the evening of September 22nd, the cleanup was complete. The body was buried. The evidence was disposed of. The master bedroom looked almost normal, if you didn't know what to look for. Jennifer Gledhill had committed what she believed was the perfect murder. And now, she was about to make her most critical mistake. September 22nd, just before midnight. Less than 48 hours after murdering her husband, Jennifer showed up at her lover's home. She was carrying artwork as gifts. According to the police report, she was visibly distraught. And then she said something that chilled him to his core. "I'm likely going away for a long time." And then, Jennifer Gledhill confessed. To everything. She told her lover how she had shot Matthew while he slept. How she had moved his body into a storage container. How she had driven north and buried him in a shallow grave. How she had cleaned the house, ordered a new mattress, disposed of the evidence. Every detail, every step. As if she needed someone to know what she'd done. Her lover noticed bruises all over her body. When he asked about them, Jennifer casually explained that she'd gotten them while moving Matthew's body and cleaning the house. The casualness of her explanation, that was what terrified him most. He was so disturbed by what he'd heard that he decided to record their next phone conversation. When he told Jennifer he was frightened by what she'd told him, her response would become one of the most haunting pieces of evidence in the entire case. Jennifer's response. "Wow, if you think I could even hurt a fly. Like he's not a person. He wasn't a person anymore. He wasn't Matt." She had dehumanized her husband so completely that his death meant nothing to her. But Jennifer wasn't done. When her lover asked if she would be afraid if the situation were reversed, she replied, "Not if I deserved it. And then came what can only be described as a manifesto. I always preached that I was like the Queen of Hearts in my past lives because I'm like, off with their heads. I'm like, if we could just round up the scum of this earth and put them on an island or just kill them all, I could shape this country back to a good place. She compared herself to a fictional tyrant. She fantasized about mass elimination of people she deemed scum. And she believed she was the one qualified to decide who lived and who died. But then, Jennifer said something that revealed just how disconnected from reality she had become. Don't think of me as a monster and remember who I was before I opened my mouth. She was asking her lover to judge her by the mask she wore, not by the person she actually was. She wanted to be remembered as the devoted mother, the nice homebody, not as the woman who shot her husband in the head while he slept. Over the next few days, Jennifer sent him text messages that would prove equally damning. In these messages, she revealed what she had expected from him. I assumed you would be like me, and if my friend told me a hypothetical story, I would say, "Let me get my shovel." Let me get my shovel? She expected him to help her bury the body. She thought he would be complicit in her crime. If I was told the story I told you, I would take it to the grave. She believed silence was loyalty. She thought he would protect her. I washed everything and vacuumed and it's not an issue anymore. And as she typed these messages, she was actively deleting them, trying to erase the evidence. But he was taking screenshots. Every word, every admission, every detail. For 6 days he collected evidence. Screenshots of text messages. Recordings of phone conversations. He was building a case while Jennifer believed she had found an ally. But here's what makes this confession even more significant. This conversation took place on September 22nd. Matthew wouldn't be officially reported missing until September 28th. For 6 days, Jennifer was referring to her husband in the past tense while the rest of the world still thought he was alive. It was linguistic proof of guilt, hidden in plain sight. On September 28th, Jennifer finally reported Matthew missing. She told police that he had said he'd be gone for a week and told her not to call him. But by then, the Utah National Guard had already begun searching for him. Matthew had failed to report for duty on September 23rd, and his military brothers knew something was wrong. That same day, September 28th, Jennifer's lover walked into the Cottonwood Heights Police Department with his phone full of evidence. Screenshots. Recordings. A full confession from a woman who had just committed murder and couldn't keep it to herself. Detectives listened to the recordings. They read the text messages. And they realized they had something extraordinary, a complete confession, given freely, recorded clearly, before the victim was even reported missing. Within hours, they executed a search warrant on the Johnson-Gledhill home. What they found inside would confirm every horrifying detail of Jennifer's confession. September 28, 2024. Armed with Jennifer's recorded confession and a search warrant, Cottonwood Heights police descended on the Johnson-Gledhill home. They knew what Jennifer had told her lover. Now they needed to see if the physical evidence matched her story. What they found was a crime scene that had been scrubbed, bleached, and sanitized, but not well enough. In the master bedroom, investigators discovered a large blood stain in the carpet, directly beneath where the bed sat. Blood was also found on the bed frame slats. The pattern and location corroborated exactly what Jennifer had told her lover. Matthew had been shot while lying in bed. Despite Jennifer's extensive cleaning, investigators found reddish-brown spots on the walls, on the bed frame, and on the window blinds. Spots she had tried desperately to remove. The wall behind the bed had been recently cleaned and was covered in bleach. The entire house, according to the police report, reeked of chlorine. The smell of bleach was overwhelming. In the basement, investigators found bleach discoloration on the stairs, evidence of something heavy being dragged down. And then there was the mattress. Brand new. Still had that factory-fresh look. Investigators immediately found this suspicious. Phone records revealed that Jennifer had ordered this mattress on September 24th, just 3 days after the murder. It was delivered on September 26th, 5 days after Matthew was killed. Prosecutors would later present a photograph from 2023 showing Matthew Johnson standing in that very bedroom, next to a distinctive rug. October 2, 2024. Jennifer Gledhill was booked into the Salt Lake County Jail. She would face a judge for the first time 2 weeks later. October 15, formal charges filed. October 21, first court appearance. December 2, she waived her preliminary hearing, a strategic choice that prevented evidence from being presented publicly at that stage. February 7, 2025. Jennifer Gledhill pleaded not guilty to all charges and was ordered to stand trial. The charges against Jennifer Gledhill are extensive. 1 count of first-degree murder. 5 counts of obstruction of justice. 1 count of possession with intent to distribute a controlled substance. 1 count of abuse or desecration of a human body. And 1 count of witness tampering. 9 charges in total, each one carrying the weight of what she did on September 21. Deputy District Attorney Emily Paulos argued forcefully against bail. Her words were stark and unambiguous. Matthew Johnson is not missing. Matthew Johnson was murdered by the defendant. Paulos presented the recorded confession, the physical evidence, the GPS tracking. But she also revealed something Jennifer had told her lover, something that demonstrated just how dangerous she might be if released. Jennifer had said she would shoot herself before going to jail. This wasn't just desperation. This was a woman who had already shown she was willing to kill to solve her problems. But defense attorney Jeremy Deas pushed back hard. His strategy was to cast doubt on the entire narrative. Mr. Johnson is a highly trained Special Forces officer with several tours of combat. These abilities and experiences give multiple explanations and possibilities that have nothing to do with Ms. Gledhill. The defense was suggesting that Matthew Johnson, a trained Green Beret, might not be dead at all. That he might have disappeared on his own. Despite the recorded confession from his own wife. Despite the blood evidence. Despite the GPS tracking. The defense was arguing reasonable doubt. Deas also questioned the physical evidence. He pointed out that no DNA was found on the mattress topper, the rug, or the pillows that were presented. And he made what might be his strongest point: no body. No weapon recovered. Everything else, he argued, is circumstantial. The judge considered both arguments. The confession versus the absence of a body. The physical evidence versus the lack of a murder weapon. The GPS tracking versus the possibility, however remote, that Matthew Johnson might have left on his own. Bail was denied. Jennifer Gledhill would remain in custody at the Salt Lake County Jail. The judge ruled that she posed a risk to the community and to the investigation. But there was another hearing that may have been even more heartbreaking. October 25, 2024. The court addressed whether Jennifer could have any contact with her 3 children. The children, now 12, 8, and 6 years old, had been placed in DCFS custody and were staying with family members. The prosecution argued that a no-contact order must remain in place. The children were potential victims and witnesses. They needed protection. The defense argued that these children had already lost their father and now their mother had been taken away too. The judge upheld the no-contact order but removed the criminal penalty, suggesting that exceptions might be possible in the future if both attorneys agreed. But for now, Jennifer Gledhill would have no contact with her children. 3 children. No father. No mother. Caught in the aftermath of decisions they had no part in making. And then there was the question of money. Matthew Johnson had a $500,000 life insurance policy through Prudential. Jennifer was named as the beneficiary. But with Jennifer facing murder charges and Matthew's body still missing, Prudential filed a motion asking the court to determine who should receive the money. Should it go to Jennifer? To Matthew's family? To the children? The question added yet another layer of complexity and another potential motive to the case. Jennifer Gledhill's trial is scheduled to begin on December 8, 2025. Jury selection will start that day, and the trial is expected to last 8 days. Perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of this entire case is the 3 children who have lost both parents. 1 to murder, and 1 to prison. They're now 12, 8, and 6 years old. Old enough to remember their father. Old enough to know their mother is in jail. Old enough to understand that their lives will never be the same. But still too young to fully comprehend the magnitude of what's been taken from them. They're living with family members now, going to school, trying to maintain some sense of normalcy. But the questions they must carry: how do you explain to a 6-year-old that mommy killed daddy? How do you tell an 8-year-old why their father isn't coming home? How do you help a 12-year-old process the fact that the 2 people who were supposed to protect them have destroyed their family? These children are the forgotten victims. They didn't ask for any of this. They didn't deserve any of this. And yet, they'll carry the weight of their mother's choices for the rest of their lives. Matthew's family released a statement through their victim representative, Brandon Merrill. We are hopeful that we will find Matt soon, or that Jennifer or someone will come forward with the location of his body so we can properly lay him to rest. Such a simple request. Such a basic human dignity. And yet, it's been denied to them for months now. As we approach Jennifer Gledhill's trial in December 2025, there are questions that haunt everyone connected to this case. How does a mother of 3 justify destroying so many lives for the sake of an affair? How does someone kill their spouse while they sleep and then clean up with such methodical precision? How does a person confess to murder and then plead not guilty, knowing their confession was recorded? And perhaps most importantly, where is Matthew Johnson? Jennifer Gledhill has given no indication that she's willing to reveal the location of Matthew's body. She's shown no remorse, no regret, no willingness to give his family the closure they desperately need. Her own words reveal her mindset. He's not a person. He wasn't a person anymore. He wasn't Matt. She dehumanized her husband so completely that his death meant nothing to her. Perhaps we'll never fully understand the depths of Jennifer Gledhill's selfishness and cruelty. Perhaps there is no explanation that makes sense to those of us who couldn't imagine doing what she did. What we do know is this: in December 2025, a jury will hear all the evidence. They'll listen to the recordings. They'll see the text messages. They'll examine the blood evidence, the GPS data, the surveillance footage. And they'll render a verdict. Justice may eventually be served. Jennifer Gledhill may spend the rest of her life in prison. Her parents may face their own consequences for obstruction of justice. If you have any information, anything at all, about the location of Matthew Johnson's body, please contact the Cottonwood Heights Police Department. The number is on your screen. His family deserves closure. His children deserve to say goodbye. And Matthew deserves to be laid to rest with the honor he earned serving his country. Jennifer Gledhill's trial. Scheduled December 8th to 17th, 2025. Salt Lake County, Utah. Thomas and Rosalie Gledhill. Charged with obstruction of justice. Case is pending. This case is ongoing. We will provide updates as they become available. Thank you for watching. If this case moved you, please take a moment to like this video. It helps us reach more people who might have information about Matthew's location. Subscribe to this channel for updates on Jennifer's trial and other intriguing stories. And please share this video. The more people who know Matthew's story, the better chance his family has of bringing him home.